Danial Lupinski. Daniel was here at the University of Michigan for about 5 years in biomedical engineering and actually worked on the project that created the first balloon pump for the heart. He also was at Northwestern Hospital as the director of their biomedical engineering department for 7 years. And it was while he was in Chicago that he came in contact with Michael Harner, who is the founder of the shamanic work in America, really. And I'm going to now turn it over to Danial Lupinski and his wife, Jenni.
As you, if you were here for the last 10 minutes, you probably tell he's an engineer because he's fooling with all the lights. And he brought his own chair, a real engineering kind of chair. And when I speak, I don't have any notes, and I don't speak anything. I speak what is for the moment. And this is the essence of doing shaman work, is being in the moment. And I had thoughts of passing around little sheets of paper and asking people how many people feel that, you know, because I didn't want anybody to feel embarrassed if they're sitting next to a coworker. But since the lights are dark, maybe you just raise your hand. How many people out there feel that 100% of the time they do exactly what they see, they live their life exactly the way they see how they should live it, and there is absolutely nothing that they don't follow their intuitive, 100% of the time? Okay, 75% of the time you maybe do this. Okay, people in the front row. 50% of the time. Okay, good. 25% of the time, don't feel bad. Okay. Is there anybody here that 0% of the time? Do we have anybody here? Okay. What I have found, a shaman is an engineer in the spiritual realms. Okay, maybe you can. Do you understand? The engineers have, and scientists too. I include them in that group. But I speak as an engineer. Engineers have created this incredible technology. You see, it took them 100 years. We had nothing. Just gas lanterns, and in 100 years we're putting people on the moon, and we're doing all this incredible technology, okay? Okay, these guys, and I was one of these. I was like 8 years old, and I was plugging in my rector set motor into the electric outlet. Then it blew up, and I says, can't do that, and then got kicked out of that bedroom by my parents. Okay, so then by the time I was 12, I had a 50-foot tower, and a big tri-bander beam, had my general class ham radio license, and was talking to people around the world. And I was 12. Okay, so that's where my head was at when I was 12. And I also envisioned sitting in my basement with little remote controls. This is like in the early 60s. Sending a robot out to go get my stuff at the store. I'm thinking on how this can be designed. And my biggest accomplishment when I was 12, besides that, was creating a little device that took my dad's rotisserie and hooked it to the back of the television, and had a remote control that actually made this thing switch. This is prior to remote controls. So stuff like that. Well, all of that's passed, and here I am with drums, and say, what's up? In the late 70s, I started to read about the American Indians, Native American culture, and was really intrigued by this culture. I said, I feel like this is where I belong. Okay, so then I read the sections about the shamans, and then I became very intrigued. I said, wow, this is very cool stuff. So probably about a year later, about 1980, I was in a bookstore on the Miracle Mile in Chicago, and a book literally fell off the shelf. And this is not the original copy of the book, because at the time it was a paperback, but it was still only a year old. It's called The Way of the Shaman by Michael Harner. And it literally, I mean, it was up there, and it literally fell out. And I saw this picture, and I said, wow, that's very cool. This is the shaman stuff that I've been reading about in these Indian books that just tell a little bit about the shamans who do this or that. So I was halfway into the book, and you know, I'm not very much stranger than I was back in 1980, just kind of I look different. But there's one of my staff, biomedical techs in the department, was into yoga, and was a very strange-looking dude. And he throws a flyer on my desk, and I'm halfway into this book, and happened to be the gentleman, Michael Harner, who was coming to Chicago in a month to do a workshop. And here I'm halfway into the book, and it's an incredible book. I'm reading page, you know, just. And so that was my calling. I said, well, here the guy throws a flyer. I found the book falls off the shelf. I need to do this, okay? So, you know, if you read about shamans, they have very strange ways of being called to do their work. You know, they have death experiences. And I've had many death experiences in different kinds of ways. I'm definitely not the same person, you know, I was 20 years ago on some different levels. But strangeness still exists. So what... I started taking some of his, I did his basic workshop, and immediately I found some power animals. And if you're interested, tonight I'm going to do a workshop here, not in this room, but in the Med-Sci room. And I think Andrew's taking care of sign-up. So see Andrew if you're interested. It's for the whole evening from 6 o'clock on, and I will take you through finding your power animal, connecting with spirit teachers, and then talking about how you do diagnostic work when you're dealing with spirit. Because this is a whole different arena. And I'll try to connect what I know and what I've experienced so that you go away, even after this hour, and say, this is pretty interesting stuff. I mean, you know, why would this guy leave a director position at Northwestern or whatever to do this? And it's not so much, I've kind of run the gamut of looking at the physical world, the physical reality that exists, and I've come to understand that there's another reality that exists, and you see it in the movies. Who saw The Green Mile, the movie The Green Mile? Do you remember when the black man who was in prison there put his hand on the crotch of Tom Hanks and took the illness out, and then he came out of his head? Did anybody have any concept, who saw the movie, that that was real or that was just fake? Real. That's real, exactly. Now, it doesn't typically come out of your head like that, but that's Hollywood, you know, that's how they were doing it. Okay. But that's for, you know, the general masses. We have to kind of, you know, do something that's very spectacular. But it does, you try not to get it, actually you try not to put it through your body. And there are different methods of, and I have made the mistake of sucking the illness into my body, and it took me 6 months to yeah, I mean, Jenny did how many ceremonies? Like a half a dozen. And at the moment that happened, I made a mistake. My drum I've had for 15 years tore right here. Now, I since sewed it, and I have healed my drum, and that's kind of what I look like too. But there are mistakes that you can make, and that's why it's good to be very, very careful when you're doing this work. And I'll talk about that tonight on doing shamanic healing work. And so, let's see, where was I? I was off into the... Okay. Trying to retrace my steps here. Where was I?
Taking in healing, or using that movie as a demonstration.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. See, the lights are down. I'm already out. I'm sorry. And that was real, but you don't want to take it into your body. You want to remove the intrusion. You want to remove the creature, the thing that's causing the disease, and when that's removed, then you take it, and it can be sucked, but there's certain ways of doing that, and you can actually take the energy of it in your hands, if you have vision to see it, and pull it out and dissolve it in water and get rid of it that way. So I'm talking probably some strange concepts here, but I'm just trying to I want to, all the things that exist on this physical plane also exist on the spiritual plane. The things that we've created on this physical plane can also be created in the spiritual plane. It's just that our society is a very physically oriented society. You know, we think in terms of seeing with our physical eyes. We haven't learned to develop this other vision. Jenny, my wife, and I'll let her talk about working with spirits, her vision is like so good that she could, when she's trance and she's merged with a spirit teacher that she works with, she can look into the body and can actually see the intrusion in the creature, and as if she was looking at the, looking at you now, she can see it in the body that clearly. Her vision is very, very precise. At times I have vision that's very clear like that. A lot of times I'm honed in right where the thing is. But let me talk about kind of the facets of healing and what this covers. And we're talking about spirit. Now, I did a kind of survey, and I saw that there's some people 25%, some majority 50%, some 75%, some 100%. Okay, what happens when and I should also ask the question, who has a sense of a really good partner, they're in love, they have children, and they're just really blissful? That's another question that would be, and I had a very interesting dream that I won't share because it'd take up more time, but it really told me the essence. And when I work with patients, what I see is that they're missing these things. They're missing the essence of love of another human being. They're missing the essence of their own spirit. They've lost it. And when we do a ceremony, we see on their face other people's faces. It's a possession. It's a form of possession. We have seen all the way from one extreme where there's another spirit inside of this person that have to extract and actually help the spirit leave the person's body, to kind of on a lower spectrum where there's a face on their face of like a parent or somebody who had kind of really this to them, really took away their spirit. And did anybody see the Fight Club? Okay, the one guy who had breasts? Okay, we had a guy who came to our workshop in Minnesota, and he even had breasts, not that big, but he had breasts. And that was overdone in Hollywood again. But he had totally female energy. He stays home and knits with his wife. Real female energy, real female energy. We did a ceremony on, and the guy was in the woods, growling like a bear, going through the woods, and he's like, being changed. We took the female face that was off of him, and some of you are saying, well, this is crazy. What are they talking about? I mean, this is how we see it. We see this person's face. There's a female face. I had a woman who had Hodgkin's disease. She came to me 5-6 years ago, and she had bone cancer, and what I saw in her was this creature in her face, and it had teeth. There was nothing in the bones. It was in her head, and there was also a man's face. Okay, when I finished doing a ceremony on her, the creature, I actually was shaking the rattles and got the creature his head to come out of her head, and grabbed it and got rid of it. And then I also saw a man's face on it, pulled that off, and did some other things, and she got bare energy. When she was finished, she was glowing. I mean, she's a beautiful woman now. She's like this when she came in, She was glowing. Then she comes back a month later. She's still glowing. She's wearing bare earrings. She's glowing. She's radiant. And she says, guess what? They did my cancer's in remission. She did a lot of other things before she even came. I'm not saying that what I did totally did it. All I know is that's how she came in. That's how she looked when I finished. That's how she looked a month later. And 3 years later, still looks the same way and has all kinds of alternative holistic yoga center up in Marquette and different things. And is just really, doing her work. A very powerful woman. She was always intimidated by her father-in-law when she'd walk in the house, and now he was scared of her, she told me the month later after she came back. He ran away. Her female energy there. This gentleman that we worked on, very gentle man, became a very powerful bear man who totally transformed. Could be a very incredible shaman. He's very powerful on one level, even though he had all this female energy. But he was very off balance. Well, needless to say, we're going in next week to do a workshop for all of his relatives and all of his friends and other people over in Minnesota because it transformed him so much. And his wife, you know, was very impressed. Okay, what does this all mean, Basel? You know, from what that movie, what is it? Austin Powers. I don't know. All I know is when you change your reality and you change your vision, you're able to see differently, and then all of a sudden you can see spirit. You can also see spirits. And so how do you learn this stuff? Well, one of the ways is you practice doing this work. How do you become a musician? You practice the instrument. How do you become a physician? You practice your skills. How do you become a shaman? You practice journeying. You practice going out of this reality. You practice developing the vision. You start to do 100%, as close as you can, to what you see and what you see you should do. If you don't do 100%, then you can't do the work. Because this is different than going through academics. I suppose in academics you still have to do 100% of the work to graduate and, you know, pass your boards or whatever you need to do. However, this is a little different. This is 100% acting out what you see. Actors are good actors because they can merge with a character and they can act out in the moment. Chris Kattan on Saturday Night Live is incredible that way, if you watch him, you know, perform. Okay, so when you're doing a ceremony on a person, and I call it ceremony because it's not a procedure. I have done hundreds of people, ceremonies I call it, because it's not a procedure. I've never seen one the same. I've never seen one to be identical. They're absolutely, totally, incredibly different. They could last a half an hour, they could last 4 or 5 hours. But what we're enacting in the ceremony is exactly what we see. Exactly, we're in a trance state. We're seeing what's inside this person. We see what has to come out of the person. We look for what needs to come back into the person. And we try to bring their spirit so that their body is light. And there's no gawk. And I've seen all kinds. One woman would come to my class and she'd sit there and do nothing. And then she wasn't even paying for the class. She said she paid Jenny some money earlier. I says, you know, okay, write me a check now. She says, well, what's that going to prove? I said, write me a check now. Put it down. She finally goes out there, huffy puffy, puts a check down. She says, so now what is that supposed to prove? I said, nothing. I just wanted you to pay me for this class. She says, well, I was thinking about not coming anywhere because I don't believe in this stuff. I said, well, why are you here? And she kept calling it a group. I said, this is not a group. This is a class, not a group, because she's just going to AA. She's a group. She always, we're meeting for group. This is not a group. This is a class. So I says, why are you here? She says, well, I don't believe in this anyway. I said, well, then go. And she says, well, can I just watch? I says, why? You don't believe in it. I says, go. I said, when you want to come, then you come back. She never came back. She has cancer now, her daughter told me. I knew she was going to have cancer. I saw it. I see people that are going to have cancer. It's real obvious. She's a nurse. She would kind of stretch herself a little bit to come there, but she wasn't doing the work. She wasn't doing the work in her own life, and she wasn't doing the work in class. And I said, get out of here. And she came to me today and said, work with me, and she was sincere and honest, and you know, I would work with her. I'd have no problem. So that's what's happening, you see. That's why probably a lot of the patients here are here. You see, they're not doing their spirit. Their spirit is dead. Person goes in a coma, their whole soul has gone. Okay, a person is traumatized, part of their soul is gone. You go to Vietnam, part of your soul is gone. You're in a car accident, part of your soul's gone. You've been raped, part of your soul's gone. You've been abused, part of your soul's gone. These parts are out there, they ain't coming back. You're walking around with parts of you out there. Well, you're a wide open target for any intrusion creatures to come in and create disease. So, what does a shaman do? He tries to take out the guk, take out the creatures that don't belong there, and he tries to find those parts and blow them back into you. He goes in journeys, she goes in journeys out into the upper worlds, lower worlds, wherever these parts may be floating around, and finds them and blows them back into the person. And maybe possibly brings back a power animal to give the person power. And then they're glowing, their eyes are light, they're shining, they're beautiful. And their life is transformed. Now, will the parts stay? If they do the work. If they start living those parts. They lost them because of these traumas. Will they stay? Will they transform? I've seen people transform, and I've seen people look worse later because they haven't done anything. But there's a major impact. Yes?
Can you talk more specifically about what doing the work means with that now?
With the individual?
Yeah, you're talking about people not doing the work, consequently they're not changing.
Right. I asked how many here are 100% do what they see? And it was just a couple of people. Doing the work is trying to get close to 100%. 100% of the time, you're doing what you see. I should not be in this relationship. Okay, sorry, gotta go, out the door. I should be living in Colorado. Me and Jenny, we're headed to Colorado. I rented out my really nice house up in the UP, and we're gonna go live in a teepee on the side of a mountain up in Colorado. I don't know why, I just need to do that. Okay. Doing what you see you should be doing. Jenny was, I don't know if, is Dave Marlowe here? He didn't make it. He's a laser biomed tech. Jenny was commenting, because Dave was telling about his work and stuff, and Jenny was commenting, boy, that guy lives in, boy, he is so blissful in his work. Doesn't matter if you're in the hospital, if you're on the side of a mountain, you know, it doesn't matter. If you're blissful in your work, and you're doing what you see that you should do, that's the work. Now, it can be very specific for certain individuals, you see. If the person goes back and their spirit is light, and they go back into a relationship with someone who is very dark and has a lot of guk inside of them, from a shamanic perspective, and I use the word guk because it just means like there's not light there. There's like creatures and there's things crawling around, and they're, you know, they're off. And they go back into that and they stay with that person after we've made, you know, created light, and they're shining, they're glowing, and they go back into darkness and they stay there and they don't do anything with their life differently, and they don't follow what they see and they stay with this thing. They're just going to get all messed up again. Yes?
Well, you're talking about creatures a lot. You care
Okay.
to enlarge
Yes.
our worldviews to
Sure.
what other beings there are.
Right. Okay. When I speak of creatures, and if you read any shaman book, you see that in illness, your body should be light. If a person is in this different state, different reality, and is seeing differently, you're trans out. And we're going to do a little middle world journey in a few minutes here, and then you get a chance to see what this state is a little bit. How many of you, wake up out of your dreams? And I was there, and you woke up and you're out of the dream, and you want to kind of go back. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. You were journeying. You were outside of yourself. You were journeying. Okay. The creatures, the body should be light. There shouldn't be snakes crawling around the body. So when you're in this different state and you look inside the person's body and you see the snake wrapping around their throat, or you see this creepy crawly spider or some kind of things with legs on it and it's attached to them right here or something, or you see something on their head or something like that, there shouldn't be any of those things. There shouldn't be, and what's the guy in Texas who did all the imagery stuff with cancer? What? Simonton. Thank you. Okay, and how do the patients draw their cancer? Did you read any?
I don't
You don't know that? Okay. They draw creatures, spiders, snakes. Wow, why is that? They saw it that way too. That's how the shaman sees it. He sees creatures, he sees snakes, he sees things that shouldn't be there. Well, it's got to come out because they're creating illness. They're the manifestation. They're the spirit intrusion that creates the illness. I was just actually reading Michael Harner's book again. I hadn't read it in 20 years, and it's really interesting to read 20 years later. And there's some of the shamans who they have different spirit helpers, and they find different plants, and they journey to the plant, and they see that there's a creature attached to that plant. Okay? So they put that particular plant in their mouth when they're sucking that particular spider out of, because the spider's connected with this particular substance, this plant. That's what they use in their mouth, and they put it in their mouth, and then they suck that spider out, and it goes into that plant because that's its home. I said, well, that's pretty interesting. We'll have to kind of experiment with that. You see? Yes?
You've talked about different worlds, upper world, lower
Right.
world,
Mm-hmm.
middle world. Could you
Okay. So if you're really interested, probably come to the workshop tonight. I'm only charging like $30 for the whole night, and that's pretty reasonable for really learning this stuff. So if you really want to get some of that stuff and really kind of see how it looks and pair up and look inside each other, you get an idea what that's about. The creatures represent intrusions in the body. They're in different, they could be anywhere in the body. They need to be removed. That's what a shaman does when they put stuff in their mouth and they say, oh, it's trickery. He's just putting something in his mouth. He didn't really suck anything out. For those who don't get at what he's doing, he was actually sucking the spirit intrusion of that creature he's seeing into that thing, and he spits it out.
So do you distinguish between thought forms and creatures then?
Thought forms. You have to stay, when you say thought forms, you're thinking concoctions in your own thinking.
Well, I mean, you can create things, supposedly.
Okay.
So
You have to stay out of that kind of thinking. You have to lose your mind. A lot of the people probably in the institution are probably shamans. They lost their mind. They don't know. We have no society that deals with any of that, losing your mind. You have to lose your thinking. Sometimes I get so lost because I've lost my thinking. I remember I was standing behind Michael Harner in line I was doing the 3-year advanced program, and I was looking, I was talking, he was in front of me, and I was saying, Michael, and I was sitting there and I was saying, just like I was here about 5 minutes ago, he says, Daniel, you graduated, you've lost your thinking. And it's that kind of thing. You have to let go of your thinking and use your thoughts to watch what you're seeing. But I won't even get it. Where did these things come from? They are. Create them in your brain. We're sitting together and we're looking at a patient, and we're seeing exactly the same thing. Maybe we're creating the same thought form in the air. It doesn't matter. All that matters, and it's kind of like an engineer. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, fix it. Yes?
I was wondering if you could use your technique on someone who either didn't know anything about it or perhaps was very, very skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said later if they don't do the work, they
Right.
couldn't hold the improvement, but could you create some improvement even if they weren't that much into it?
First of all, I don't work with anybody that I don't feel I should work with. Secondly, I don't come in, I haven't ever been with, I've never gone to somebody and solicited my services. So I don't know how I can answer that question. I don't think you'll find in any places around the world where shamans will work with somebody to do that, to see if there's an effect. I think that I've seen incredible effects, and I'll get to your question in a second. I've seen incredible, the very first time I got this, I was hiking down with my son into the Havasupai into the Grand Canyon. Long hike way down there. It's where the Havasupai Indians live. Most incredible place to be. It's like Disneyland waterfalls. He did something very mean, and he tripped, and his leg was very, very incredibly, he couldn't walk on it, okay? He half an hour is like incredibly, like like sprain, or what, his knee was all damaged. You know, he says, I can't walk, and what am I going to do? The whole thing's tripped. So I put my hand on his knee, and when I closed my eyes and I saw these little lizards, they're the same lizards that walk around down in the canyon there. They're all over the place, these little lizards. And I saw all these little lizards in his knee. So I sat there one by one and picked them off. You know, I was just closing my eyes, I was finding all the little lizards, picking them off out of his knee, and then I says, how's that? And then he gets up and he starts walking. He says, his eyes like lit up. He says, what did you do? I said, I don't know. I just took the lizards out of your knee, you know. And that was many years ago. And that was my first encounter with saying, wow, this is interesting. Took the lizards out of his knee. He can walk. You know, if you wanted to, there's got to be, and there, I guess there was an example where he was not, you know, he just, you know, he didn't say, heal me. He just, he didn't even say nothing. He says, let me put my hand here. It worked in that case. Now, you take somebody who has cancer, will it work? I don't know. Cancer patients come to me and ask me, and she's done a credible amount of work before she got here. But she's, you know, she came, she was doing the work. She did, you know, she went out glowing. It's incredible what I saw that happen. Sarah asked me about the lower world, middle world, and upper world. Okay, this is how we're going to do a middle world journey here, and I'm going to let you guys see what a middle world is. This plane, this reality plane. Okay, this is how the shamans would find out where the buffalo is, the game for their tribe. I mean, you see, in those where shamanism exists today, or where it existed many, you know, throughout the centuries, and all of us come from a shamanic origins. All of us. Shamanism existed before there was any kind of religion. So whether you're Christian, Jewish, whatever, okay, shamanism is the spiritual practice that existed throughout all humankind. We are just starting to uncover it. As an engineer, I'm just starting to uncover it. I've seen some amazing things. But if you're in a tribe and you take a journey into the middle world and you see the elk are over there, and you send your hunters over there to where the elk are, and they come home all happy with a lot of elk, they're coming back to you, let me tell you. However, you send them out over there because you just concocted something in your thinking.
That's
and
not what I was meaning.
Pardon?
That's not what
No, I know you're saying thought forms of seeing animals, and where does that come from? But I'm talking also about creating, like sometimes we can just kind of imagine things. And I don't even want to get into those words because they're very, because where does the line draw between really journeying and just imagining the journey? But if you send somebody out there and there's no animal, no game, you know, you're not in business as a shaman. If you have someone who's ill, and you see the illness, and you see the creatures, and you pull them out, and you see that somebody has possessed this person, and you take the possession out, and they're better, well, you're in business. Okay, that's middle world, is being able to leave your body here, and in your spirit, go somewhere in this physical plane, on the earth here, middle world. The upper world is going up into the spirit world, is where you usually find spirit teachers, deceased relatives, spirits, evolved, unevolved. It's a place where you can journey up into the sky. The lower world is an example of, like in the kivas, I was reading in the Southwest, they had a little hole in the corner of the kiva. That hole was for them to journey into the lower world. A lower world is where you find an opening in the earth and you visualize that, and then you actually journey down that opening. And you keep following the tunnel down, and we'll do that tonight. Anybody's interested in the workshop coming, we'll do a lower world, upper, middle world journey. And you go down to the lower world, and it looks like this world. It has trees, sky, and everything. But when you're down there is where you'll find a power animal, a totem animal. And if you see, I go to these tribal dances sometimes, and I see them wearing the eagle and different costumes, and they're really not very, I don't think that, some of them I see in touch, but the concept of the costume, and if you go to, my favorite place is the Chicago Museum History Museum. And it has all this incredible shaman's mask and all this stuff. But the concept of the costume is that you wear the animal. Like my shaman's costume consists of a bear skin and some other things, bones and different things. And these are things that I saw on my journey. I've recently met up with a South American shaman spirit teacher that Jenny kind of helped bring. And come on, why don't you come up here and you're falling.
Food for my brain.
Come on. I recently met a South American shaman that Jenny kind of helped bring into my life, and is a very interesting spirit teacher. And his costume was nothing more than a little pouch thing down here, which I've made. I won't wear it tonight, but I was thinking that would be really a trip to wear that. Has little feathers coming out, you know. And Jenny thought it was pretty cool. But that's all he wears, in a headdress, you see, and that would be the representation of him. If I was to merge with him and work, you know, him, and he's already in a week that I've known this spirit teacher, he showed me some very incredible things already. And so into the lower world is where you meet a power animal. And I was talking about, this is where you find your own power totem animal, and you merge with this animal when you're doing healing work, or you merge with a spirit teacher. And I'll have Jenny in a second talk about like her spirit teacher and how she merges and works. I've worked with a power animal a lot. So I'll go journey into the lower world, I'll merge with the power animal, I'll become one with it, just like a character in a movie. Good actors, they merge with the character, they become that character. They have the power, the essence of that character. Okay, so if you merge with an animal, that is your power animal, your totem animal, and this is what the shamans did. This is where the tribes would wear the mask of that animal, or wear the costume representing that animal, and they would dance that animal, and they would be empowered with that animal. So when you're doing healing work, you're empowered with this animal, and you're actually working from that place. You're taking things out of the person's body, but you're a bear. Can you imagine a bear going, ah, at your body? Ah. You know? It's different. It's different than Daniel just going like this. See? I'm totally like engaged. I'm totally merged with this animal. And this is in the lower world. This is where you find your power animal. It's also a place to do, you can do diagnostic work. You can journey into the lower world, and you can see the patient down in the lower world who's really here in the middle world. But you can see him in the spirit form in the lower world. So you want to talk about your spirit, teacher?
Give her the mic.
Oh, okay.
I can just really talk loud.
Well, they want to record this, yeah. Of course.
Just a little clip. Okay. Well, I'm sitting there in the back, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? You know, what am I going to say to this? Because in normal, I guess, what we live in kind of reality, to come say that you merge with a spirit and then you do healing work already shifts realities right there. And I think right there is the essence or heart of shamanism, is shifting people's reality or shifting their paradigm. And I know that in healing sessions that we do, half of the work that when we do, when we're talking, when we talk with them, is that we shift their reality. You see, prior to the ceremony, prior to even the healing. So even if you come away from this just with your reality just altered a little bit, then that's good. And you don't have to go and go do healing work or anything like that. But you could even just have a shamanic worldview, and that you start to see a little bit deeper. And if that is it, then that's cool, because when the spirit teacher that I work with, she tells me that eventually humans will awake, will wake up, and we won't have to go to spirit teachers. And shamans even traditionally work with a spirit teacher. Sometimes that's primarily what they're taught by, and not another shaman, but actually a spirit teacher. And then these spirit teachers are then handed down, handed down, handed down. And then she tells me that eventually, though, humans won't need that, and that we will realize our full potential, our full healing potential. And we don't know. I mean, if you can take this expanded reality and apply it to any kind of job that you have, the outcomes are incredible. You know, 100 years ago, people thinking about TVs, you know, having TVs, what a box that, you know, receives all these signals and then plays these pictures. They thought, you know, no way, you know, who knows if humans can take this, all of the knowledge, all of the mind knowledge that they have gotten, and to start looking beyond the rules that we've set down, that society has set down. Oh my, you know, the potential that we have is incredible. So even though some of the concepts or whatever that we are saying may seem strange, if they're expanding your brain muscles, or if you are losing your mind, good. Because that's it. That's all we want to do. Yeah.
I lived in Senegal, West Africa for 2 years, and then just recently came back from South Africa. And there are traditional healers among those cultures, and when they speak to the people, it's almost, there's no block. There's a complete communication. Do you experience? Have you spoken to different groups and have gotten different receptivity based on the culture and the language and just the familiarity of what you're talking about?
I think that as far as groups, the larger groups, as far as seminars, you know, I've talked in seminars quite often, but as far as talking in front of like a group, a formal group, I haven't done that very often. This is very new for me. But it's in seminars, you know, if we have 20 or 30 people, I've done that. As far as different cultures, yeah, with like the Native American or some of my friends who are Asian or of different things, definitely. There's some people where you can talk about dreams and they will just take it as the regular reality, you know, if something happens, so it's very nice. Yeah, so definitely. And it's interesting because the woman, the spirit guide that I work with, I believe she is African in origin, so it's interesting that you, something's resonating, or I don't know. So anyways, as far as like merging with the spirit, I grew up very Pentecostal Christian, and I've always talked to spirits, and I've always came home and told my parents what the spirits told me, and it was usually future things or something. They tried to depossess me quite a few times. Obviously, it didn't work. And so, you know, this whole thing, when she has told me things, I've done things in ceremony, and then later found out that it's done in other cultures. Now, how does that happen? That's where you lose your mind, okay? Because you go, how did I know this? Because you couldn't have known it because you never read it. You know, but then later on, because I get in my mind, and luckily the universe is nice enough to bring this to me that, oh, okay, I understand what I'm doing. Like she told me to come use 151 proof rum and eggs in my ceremony. Eggs in order to roll on a person's body, in order to pick up anything that I would, or she would bring to the surface, okay? And also to blow rum on their body. I'm like, oh, I gotta go to the moon, okay? So I come in, you know, for a healing session, and I have like a 151 proof rum. Yeah, you know, it's like vitamins. And so, so I come in with you know, the alcohol and the eggs, and the person for the healing session is like, whoa, and it's effective. It works. You know, I won't go into all the specifics, but I learned later on that what I was seeing to do is a common practice used in some South American traditions, also Siberian traditions, some Mexican. You know, it's ecstatic. I don't know if you can feel the excitement, but when you merge with, when I merge with this being, and I allow, because you don't just like let anybody come in and out, learn that the hard way, but you're only conscious. Some people do, and then they associate. So you consciously just, you know, I trust the spirit, so I let her into my body, and I feel her. I feel she's actually a larger black woman, and so I feel her in my body, and so I feel very empowered, and my seeing becomes super bright, like really surreal. And so when I'm looking at a person's body, all of a sudden I can see them with the energies or the creatures or whatever in there, and that's what I pull out, and it's ecstatic at that moment. It's like total bliss because I'm right there in the moment, and if I second guess it, then I falter and the effect is lost. So I have to, my mind is still consciously just observing, because you have to keep the mind busy. You know, just go, okay, 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 to the mind. You try to push it down, it doesn't work, you know. So you just gotta go, okay, okay, okay. But at that moment, there's an ecstasy. And that's also what shamanism, the second thing I think shamanism is about ecstasy. And third, about living in the moment, you know. And so that's my experience as far as like merging with a spirit guide. I think that society is like right on that brink, you know. We're starting to open up, you know. We're starting to get there, and that the things that are going to happen, that are possible, are incredible. I don't know how much to go into because I don't know how much time we have.
We have about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a 1 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah, I was feeling a time.
If there's not people could stay for maybe 15 minutes or so.
Were there any questions or okay.
And then we could answer the questions, or this would take 5 minutes. It's middle of the journey.
Yeah, I felt that time thing.
Okay, so just give you a chance to I'm burning this little sage, just kind of get the energy clearing here. And Jen, you want to talk about middle world, and then we'll start.
Middle world journey is, and I know Daniel does not like to use the word imagination, but it's taking your perception, like as if you were sitting here right now, and you were to close your eyes, and you were to take your perception to your house. You know, go look at your house. Check in on your wife, girlfriend, husband.
Actually, you can leave your body and just go take your whole perception. And if you want to think in terms of perception, just walk out the door and go back to your apartment or to your unit.
Sure, like that. That's
If you want to do that, that would be middle world.
middle world journey. And the applications of that, it's like you said, finding lost sheep or animals, or also sometimes people use it for remote healing. If you can take your, somebody is hurting or ill and you want to remotely heal them, and I believe, you would ask a question, I believe that you need somebody's permission. Because it's their thing they're working out, so they need to want to have it. So if they want that, you can remotely go to where they are and do whatever you see to do. That could be a practical application. Don't come uninvited, though.
You also can go to a place in nature that you've been to before and just kind of take your perception and just be there, and then start going down the path, like where a place like in the woods or on the lake or somewhere where you've been, and just start walking. And I'd like you to, that your eyes closed here, and...
Do you want this?
Okay. Your eyes closed, and allow yourself to try to see with your other vision, to see what it looks like. What does the ground look like? What does the trees look like? If you want to just go out the door here and go around the hospital, and hopefully you won't freak anybody out, and do that. Just go to a place in nature, or just go somewhere here. And what I want you to do is just close your eyes, and I want you to allow yourself to get really relaxed. And when we start drumming and rattling, then allow yourself to just go. And if you're having trouble with that, you've all daydreamed, right? You kind of like, you're a kid, you're going to McDonald's or something, daydreaming while you're in school. Do that. Just experience that. Just take your perception and just leave, okay? Here we go. Eyes closed. Okay, and then we'll also give you a call back, which will be with the drum and the rattles, and that's time to come back. So then wherever you are, just journey back to where you're at here. Okay? Your bodies are here, your perception, your spirit's going to leave. Okay, here we go. Okay. Hopefully everybody's back. We all get back? Okay. Anybody here would like to share their experience? Yes?
I found myself going down by the Huron River and being in a marsh down there.
Okay.
Just the gurgling of the water and saw an heron. Actually felt like being a heron at one point.
So we see what happens? Good. Good, yes.
I went to a lake that I know very well, that I love, and found myself just walking in and being underwater, just walking and walking deeper into the lake, and then in a sense there was something to find of great value that I lost, and there was a mussel shell with pearl.
You saw what?
A mussel shell with pearl.
Huh?
And I swallowed the pearl and then had to get up to the surface again, and a heron came and took me up to a nest, and then I was fed by 4 birds, the great blue.
Good stuff I put in the incense, right?
Great blue heron, an owl, a crow, and a seagull. And then they finally took me through me, and I started to fly.
Now you're seeing what shamanism is about. That's what it's about. There's an incredible world out there. It's a different reality. And this is how you go into it. You can go down to South America and take ayahuasca, or you can come to the med science spoon at 6 o'clock. I'll teach you some natural ways to do that. So, any questions? Anything unsettled in your mind? Yes?
You were talking about the bear removing creatures from the body. Is the type of animal that's equipped to take a creature out of the body, has to have an appropriate fingers, or can an animal with a hoof like a deer remove illnesses?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I was wearing some deer teeth here. At the moment I'm wearing the skull from this South American shaman, because he has one of the things that he wears is all these little skulls, and I won't tell you where he gets them from, but that's part of what he wears, you see. That's part of his power. But any animal has you can work with, any kind of animal. And you merge with their energy. And even though a deer has hoofs, the deer is, you're merged with him. So the power of that deer is within you. And of course you use your hands, and but but you'll notice that there's a big shift in your whole energy, your whole power when you've merged. And that's the place that you work out of when you're doing healing work. Yes. And it's very important. One of the things we're going to do tonight is to help you find your power totem animal, whatever that might be, and do journeys into the lower world and find out what your animal is. And then when you know your power animal, and everybody has a power animal, a lot of people who are dying, their power animal has left. And one of the things you can do for somebody who's dying is to bring a power animal back, and that may help. But the power animal is, everybody has 1 or 2 or more power animals. And what you do to honor them is to have drawings, wear things on your body that represent the animal, and to connect with it. I remember I once worked at a VA hospital in Chicago, and I walked into the department, and I was director of the department there, and this one of the techs said, "Boy, you're acting like your barrel self, And you see, my energy reflected to the animal that I'm connected with. Let's see. Any other questions?
How do you find your power animal?
You journey into the lower world. So you do a journey into the lower world with the drum going, just like we did, but you go through an opening in the earth, something that does really exist, an opening in earth like a ground hole, a snake hole, a tree trunk, a lake, a cave, something that will go into the earth. And you go down there with the intention, and this work is always with intention. If you say to yourself, I would like my power animal to come to me 3 or 4 times, and you do this journey, you'll see that you will be able, the animal will come to you, the animal that is your power animal. And that's something we'll do tonight. Michael Harner's book, which is, it's a really old book, it's 20 years old, but the essence of techniques and concepts are in here, but it's a starting place for techniques, and techniques is a place to get you off the ground. It's not, it's just whatever appears to you. It's just an incredible work. You see, it's so individual. As I say, every ceremony I do with an individual is absolutely different, and where it comes from, I have no idea. I enact what I see. I do exactly what I see I'm supposed to do. That's what works. So you got to be in the moment. You have, you know, if you want to do this kind of work, you have to practice being in the moment. You have to practice doing what you see. You have to be impulsive. You have to do what you see. We're really caught up in our heads a lot. That's what our society is based on, a lot. You know, but there's also a lot of problems in our society, a lot of problems. And kids are not doing ecstasy and drugs because this is a great society to live in. You see? They're not doing it for that reason. They want to get back to what is normal, you see? So we have to get out of our heads. I mean, you know, look at our presidency thing. You know, it's all crazy. 50% of the people think this way, 50% of the people think this way. But it's all a mess. I mean, regardless of who, you know, one's trying to do a little bit better than this way, but it's a big mess. We have to get back to our tribal roots of human beings. And I had a very interesting dream this morning, and at the essence, I was telling a person, you got to go find yourself. Find someone you can love, and then have some children if that comes. And that's it. Find somebody, and the people I work on who are sick, it doesn't exist in their lives. Doesn't exist. So that's it. Just find love and, you know, and enjoy being human. But enjoy being human. That's what we've lost. That's what I found. That's what this work is about, being a spirit doctor. Helping people find their spirit. And if you help to bring back intact their whole spirit, all the parts, and take out the gunk, hopefully they will go. I had one woman, seriously, vampire, seriously. And I even asked her just to prove that I was right in my seeing. I says, if I was to cut my wrist and you could drink the blood out of my hand and have my power, would you do it? And she says, yeah. I gave her, I says, look, I'll work on you, but I'm going to Minnesota, and this is in Ohio. I says, you have to come drive to Minnesota and bring $150, then I'll work on you. And I knew she was going to go out ranting and raving, and she did exactly what I saw that she was going to do. You see? Very strange stuff we come across. And some people can be helped, and some people, like I say, who's like this, she comes with nothing to offer, but she wants to take. You can't help these people. But there's a majority, 99%, people are sincere and they want a life, they want a spirit. And those 99% you can help, and probably even higher than 99. These are exceptions, these kind of people. And I've met maybe 2 or 3. Okay, any other questions? Well, I thank you very much. Yes?
Yeah, but do you think it's better not to eat slaughtered animals in case you would be somehow eating your power animal, or do you feel it's positive to like eat chicken?
Yeah, I think you have to journey on that. You have to go and in your journey to see what is right for you. I think you have to understand, look at the difference in people who don't eat slaughtered animals and then people you find eating pork, and you know they look like the animal. Okay, so you know your choice is you know what you take into your body, you know, is what you're going to become in all kinds of levels, not only food, your emotions, the stress, and all the different things, your judgment. We have such incredible judgment, and it just ages us incredibly. You know, so we have to work on, when I say doing the work, it's letting go of the judgment and all the crap and all the thinking and all the things that hinder us from being. And you know, you should be 100% doing what you see. And a lot of people prostitute themselves. They go to college because somebody else is paying for it. But if they had to pay for it, they wouldn't go. They're going to the hospital because the insurance pays for it. But if they had to pay for it, they wouldn't go. You see, that's doing the work. I wish I could have talked about homeopathy. That's incredible medicine, and it has to deal with spirit. And I was going to have some handouts, and I didn't do that. And talked about homeopathy and shamanism. That's another subject, and hopefully at some point you have a really good homeopath.
That's a great segue to
Yeah.
maybe we can do this again sometime.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.